Good morning, everyone. My name is Kim Stevenson, and I'm the Director of Workforce and Clinical Affairs at the Massachusetts Health and Hospital Association. I want to welcome you to today's webinar, Funding the Future Nursing Workforce, inside the NCWS Apprenticeship Planning Grant. A few logistics before we start. We are recording this, and all attendees will receive the recording and the slides following the webinar. If you have any questions during the webinar, please enter them into the chat feature as we are in listen-only mode. The questions will come directly to us, and we will do our best to address as many as we can at the end of the presentation. I also want to take a moment now to thank MHA's 2026 annual sponsors and strategic partners for their support in underwriting today's webinar. This is just one of many events we offer throughout the year to connect our members with leading experts to help address timely issues like the one today. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker from the Massachusetts Nursing Council on Workforce Sustainability, Jay Prosser. Jay is a Doctor of Nursing Practice and is Executive Director of the Massachusetts Nursing Council on Workforce Sustainability. Jay has worked in the healthcare for over 20 years and led hospital recovery following a months-long nursing strike in 2021. He began his career as a critical care nurse and has also served as a practice administrator, nurse manager, service line director, and assistant chief nursing officer. Jay has received a Florence Nightingale Nursing Award for exemplary nursing practice and is a published author. In his current role, Jay works to develop statewide efforts and solutions to address the nursing shortage in Massachusetts. Jay, thank you so much for being here today, and I will hand it over to you now to get us started.
All right, Kim, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me, and thank you for that really nice introduction. I especially appreciate that really good picture. I'll have to get that the way you kind of edit that. Looks really good. So I appreciate everybody being here today. I hope you can see my slides. If not, just let me know. As Kim said, I'm the Executive Director of the Nursing Council for Sustainability for Massachusetts, and we have a planning grant opportunity. And it's in regards to nursing apprenticeships, both at the practical nursing level, LPN, and the registered nursing level, RN, either ADN or BSN. This webinar today is just going to focus on the practicalities of how to apply for this grant, the things that you need. We'll go through the application question by question. This will not answer a lot of questions about apprenticeships. I am going to brush over that just a little bit, but we do have some webinars which they will either drop in the chat or send to you as a follow-up that are just going to talk about the basics of nursing apprenticeships, the theory behind them, how you structure them, how we can help, some of the regulatory things you have to be aware of, and things like that. But for the purpose of this, it's going to be relatively simple, and we're just going to kind of walk through this funding opportunity. So let me introduce you first to the Massachusetts Nursing Apprenticeship Network. This is something that the NCWS created, and it's really just to kind of help facilitate the development of both LPN practical nursing and registered nursing apprenticeships in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Through the MNAN, we'll provide the technical support, we'll provide sponsorship through the Division of Apprenticeship Services. Essentially, we would love to be your one-stop shop to help you create nursing apprenticeships. I will tell you on the forefront that the nursing apprenticeship program that we've developed is to about 80% completion. It's ready to launch right now, but the reason we only complete it to about 80%, it gives the healthcare organization and the academic institution the opportunity to kind of create their own brand with that apprenticeship, right? Because we want you to love what you have. We want your workforce to love what you have. We want your workforce to love the product, and we want you to have some ownership with it, like allowing you to kind of brand that yourself. We're there to kind of walk you through the entire process. With MNAN, we also want to track all of the nursing apprenticeship data in Massachusetts just to kind of determine our outcomes. We know that nationally, even though healthcare, apprenticeships, when we talk about that, has been around for 250 years. The healthcare space is kind of like the last frontier with nursing apprenticeship, with apprenticeships in general. Although there have been a lot of progress in some of your like surge techs, medical assistants, and things of that nature. Nationally, there are a lot of nursing apprenticeships. We just started developing those in Massachusetts, but nationally that's growing. And the statistics with nursing apprenticeships are so impressive, and it's really interesting because you can look at the program that we developed, which is specific for Massachusetts. I'm from Alabama, so you can look at Alabama's program, which arguably is one of the strongest nursing apprenticeship programs in the United States of America. I say that as a fact base, not because I'm from Alabama, although that could play into it. I won't discredit any bias I might have. But every program structure is different because we know that regulations in states are different. We know that requirements are different. But it's really interesting because when you look statistically about the benefit to the nursing student, the benefit to the healthcare organization, it really just aligns no matter how different they are because they incorporate some of the basic principles of apprenticeships. But just about 30 more seconds on this slide, we have been working in the space of apprenticeships and developing those for the last couple of years. We have that ready, it's ready to launch right now. Everything that we created, you have access to. And not only that, you have access to us. We have created, well, we didn't really create, we just kind of were able to jump in to a national network of really, really smart people who are doing nursing apprenticeships, which is helpful to us because there's often a question that will come up, and we might not have the answer to it, but we know somebody that does. When we started creating these, we sat down with a lot of stakeholders from healthcare organizations to academic institutions to the Board of Nursing. The Board of Nursing has been a fantastic partner. And we kind of did that because we wanted to see what we could get away with, right? But more importantly, we did want to create a program that would be in alignment with the regulations in Massachusetts because that's super important. We don't want to do anything that's not going to be supported. So that's just a little brief about apprenticeships. This is our website, and we'll have the website address at the end, but it's ncwsma.org. If you look here on our website, there's a tab called Nursing Apprenticeships. This has a ton of resources on it. Our Nursing Apprenticeship Playbook is there for download. Our recommendation on evidence-based practice for nursing apprenticeships is there. Talking points. There's some information on return of investments. There's a lot of links on that. In addition, the last tab on that, and when you hover, this is obviously a slide, so it's not going to be live, but when you hover over that, it's going to be a pull down, and the last one is the Nursing Apprenticeship Planning Grant. So we are going to fund between 8 to 10 planning grants of between $30,000 and $60,000 a piece. Apprenticeships, nursing apprenticeships are employer driven. However, the employer cannot drive it alone, right? Because this is a healthcare organization, which I'll refer to as an HCO throughout the presentation, and an academic partner, an academic institution. This grant came down specifically for public higher education facilities, which means this. It doesn't cover anything private. It covers the community colleges and four-year nursing programs, so ADN or BSN, but it does not cover any private colleges. It also does not cover the voc techs, which educate 60% of the practical nurses in Massachusetts. That's a huge gap. We're aware of that. We are working to do some planning grants, maybe a secondary planning grant that would cover private institutions as well as voc tech schools as well. So if that's you, it would be a good idea to kind of still pay attention here because hopefully we will have some funding for that as well. But this grant, we're limited with the way we get the money. So this is kind of the parameters that we have to work in. The end result of this grant is that your partnership is going to start either practical nursing and or registered nursing apprenticeships at the end of the grant period, and these will be registered apprenticeships. Again, I'll tell you a little bit later about that registration process and how we can help with that. Let's look at a timeline really quickly. The application period is open. It's open now until March 6th. If you're on this call and you're like, oh my gosh, we're never going to get it done, this is what you need to email me and let me know. Oh my gosh, we can have the application in by March the 11th, but maybe not March the 6th. We did build a little bit of wiggle room into this timeline. So if that's you, then make sure you reach out to me and let me know. We'll make decisions on the applications in that second week of March, and then we'll announce awards towards the end of March or on March 23rd, and then the funds will be distributed in April, with the goal that you'll be ready to launch apprenticeships somewhere close to the beginning of February, the end of January 2027. Okay? All right. So I want to take you now just kind of step by step through the application, all the forms and things like this. Now, the Nursing Council is the driver of this application process, the driver of the decisions, the driver of the distribution of funds. We're there through the entire process. Okay, so we're here from today until well after January 30th, 2027, because the apprenticeship space is something that we're going to be in perpetually. Okay, we've crafted some framework for, as I mentioned, LPN and RN apprenticeships, but there's still a whole lot of work to do, which is adding pre-apprenticeship opportunities for individuals, really kind of working in that pathway from unlicensed assisted personnel. How if you have CNAs or MAs or even kitchen workers within your facility, how you can get those maybe to LPN and or RN. So a lot of opportunity there, and then how do we kind of structure the framework around some of our really big areas that have gaps, such as the emergency room, which is difficult sometimes for new graduates to transition into, the intensive care unit. As a former ICU nurse, I did go into ICU right after graduation. However, I'd worked in the ICU as a tech for the last year and a half of nursing school, so i.e. a type of apprenticeship. So I was very well prepared, even though it was still challenging. And then, maybe even some of our really specialized areas, such as the operating room. How can we kind of reduce some of that 1 year time typically after a graduate enters the field to become an OR nurse? So the planning grant, again, is the cooperation between a healthcare organization and an academic institution. There's just one application, however. The way we structured it is that the healthcare organization would take the lead on being the primary applicant. However, if you are a smaller healthcare organization and maybe you're aligned with an academic institution that's larger, that has more resources, or has more experience in workforce development, it is fine for the academic institution to be the one that drives the application. But whoever drives the application is the person we're going to pay. So you have to be responsible for the budget, the finances, and the distribution of that money. So we're fine with it either way. We just had to make a choice about who would be the driver. And so much because apprenticeships are healthcare organization driven, and the healthcare organization at the end of the day is going to pay the bills, we thought that was the fair way. If you are looking at a planning grant and you feel like you want the academic institution to be the primary driver, that's just an email to me just to let me know. We have one that's applying, I know of right now, that's like that. All right, we talked about the applicant role, so I won't really go into that. So let's talk about required forms and documentation. We tried to simplify this as much as possible so that you're not submitting things that are arduous or things that in the end we're not going to use or not going to need. So there's really only three things that you're going to submit, which is the W-9, which is where you get the money, which is important because there's no reason to apply for the grant if you're not going to get the money. Secondly, a memorandum of understanding. This is between the healthcare organization and the academic institution that just speaks to, hey, we understand we're entering into a grant, here's what we're going to do. And we don't provide language for that because most places have kind of some predetermined language for memorandum of understanding, so that's pretty open. We do understand that sometimes, especially in larger organizations, sometimes in smaller organizations as well, the memorandum of understanding can take a minute. So if that is in process but not finalized by the time you apply, that's fine. But in order to award funds, we will have to have the memorandum of understanding. So that's something we can communicate about, okay? Because again, the nursing council has a very small kind of structure, so it's not like you're going to have to go through 10 people to get the answer that you need. And then the third thing is only the completed grant application. If you get an award and you're chosen to get one of the planning grants, then we will do a letter of intent that just outlines the timeline again, how much money you're getting, your budget, and kind of the reporting structure. I can promise you the reporting structure is going to be pretty easy, and likely it's just going to be an email. Hey, here's the things that we did for this month or quarter or whatever the reporting process is going to be, and here's some of the expenses that we had. So we try to make this very functional and easy for you, but also we have to meet all the requirements. Again, this is pretty easy information, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. The primary organization, again, if it's the healthcare organization that goes here, This physical contact is a person that's your money person, right? This is a person we need to contact to say, hey, we sent you $60,000. We do it through the UMass system, however the payment works there through that system. So this is the physical contact, and then obviously we need contact information for the secondary institution, whether it's the academic institution or the healthcare organization. Let's talk a little bit about organizational history. Now, all of these answers, we would strongly advise that it be a combination of information from the healthcare organization and information from the academic institution. We're not looking for the Encyclopedia Britannica A to Z. The Reader's Digest version is fine, okay? Just something that gives the basic information, but also addresses, kind of the scope of what we're asking. Organizational history just tells us a little bit about yourself. Because there are some organizations that are new that we're not familiar with, and so just help us familiarize us with your organization. Again, Reader's Digest version. Why are you applying for this grant? What are your workforce needs? What do you envision for this fixing? What problem are you trying to solve? And how do you think that this is going to help your organization? And again, a combination of information from the healthcare organization as well as the academic institution. Workforce training experience and or apprenticeship experience. Well, we know that you're likely not going to have any nursing apprenticeship experience, since the only nursing apprenticeships that are actually formal, although there could be some informal ones. We have 12 students at QCC right now that just started a practical nursing apprenticeship program. But you may be doing MA apprenticeships, or you may have programs that are very similar to apprenticeships. We've done, when I was a CNO, we didn't have an official apprenticeship program in the state that I was in, and so we did a student nurse program. But that's workforce training, right? So just let us know what workforce training have you done before, and maybe it can serve as kind of a guide for how you're going to put this program together. All right, your apprenticeship planning goals and approach. Here's what we're going to do with the program. Here's how we think we're going to go about it. Number 4 is your most important thing, right? This is where kind of the rubber meets the road. This is all the details that we need to know. I would highly encourage you to go to the website. There's a lot of information there on apprenticeships. There's a lot of links there to other organizations, very large national organizations that do nursing apprenticeships, that promote nursing apprenticeships. So there's information there that you can kind of glean off of. If you get lost in this question, then reach out and let us know, and we'll try to help you by giving you some resources or just kind of talking you through this process. Again, Reader's Digest version, but always make sure it's really, really good content, okay? Number 5, this is obviously anything that you do in leadership, you use some element of predictive analysis. And so you have to do some predictive analysis here. So let's say that you get a $50,000 to $60,000 grant. What is the sustainability beyond this grant period? If you have to add staff to make this happen, how are you going to support them? How are you going to continue to support the students? What is the growth of the program? What is your ability to determine your return on investment and maybe utilize funds from something that's not producing a reliable recruiting pool of nurses for you? I know that many hospitals use a lot of technology-based programs. We invested a lot of money at one of the hospitals I was at in an app that I think is essentially a headhunter app that, I think asks the nurse, hey, are you satisfied in your job? Which depends on the time you get the survey, how you're going to answer that, right? If you're coming off night shift, which I used to work, and they ask you, hey, how satisfied are you with your career? It might be kind of low, right? So we invested a lot of money. We really didn't get a return on that. We may have got 3 nurses off of that. Creating consistent talent pools is one of the benefits of nursing apprenticeships. So tell us how you're going to sustain that. And you can give some broad details if you need to, more specific details if you know them. But again, sometimes in predictive analysis, you don't always have those. Planning grant budget. We're going to ask you to do 2 budgets, a $30,000 and a $60,000, with the idea that the grant amount could be a little different, maybe $45,000, maybe $42,500. We just don't know until we get the applicants and determine the awards. But we do need 2 budgets between $30,000 and $60,000. Okay, this is not going to be that hard, and here's why. because what we want is very broad categories for budget. Because you can switch budget money from categories, you just can't make new line items. Here's a great example. If you say that administrative costs are $4,000 and your promotional costs are $2,000, and you wind up spending $1,000 on promotional costs but $5,000 on administrative costs, then just take that $1,000 from your promotional and move it to the other category. So it's totally fine to switch money from category to category as we go through the implementation process of this planning grant. But you can't just make a whole new category, right? You can't just say, oh my gosh, we didn't figure out administrative costs, so we're just going to make a new line item for $10,000 in administrative costs. So my advice to you is to be very broad with those categories. Let those categories be all-inclusive so that you have plenty of wiggle room to drop in the amounts of money that you need and the expenditures that you need, okay? Then we'll also work with you as we do the final budget that will appear in the letter of intent if you do get an award. As far as the format for the planning grant budget, you can actually just type that in. It doesn't have to be an Excel sheet or anything like that, even though I know that really makes people that do budgets nervous when I say don't use an Excel sheet. But just type it in there. Very, very simple. Don't get overly technical, because you will be held to the overly technical standard. Okay, so again, I encourage you to be kind of broad. Use 4 or 5 categories and divide your money up into those categories, knowing that you can switch between those categories amounts of money that you may not use, or if you under budgeted one item and you over budgeted another item. Okay, so here's what we can do for you. All right, we've walked through the application. Pretty simple application. The application is available online. It's a downloadable PDF, so you can take it, fill it out, and then you'll just email it to the Nursing Council email address with your W-9 if your MOA is done. If not, you'll need to email us and at least give us an idea about where that is in process, knowing that you can't actually receive an award until that MOA is done. So the Nursing Council is driving this process. We're the physical intermediary for all the planning grant, giving the money, taking the applications, deciding on the applications. So that means that we're here to help, okay? Any questions you have, reach out to us. All the contact information for us is on the website. My personal contact information is going to be at the end of this presentation. You'll get it by email. Everybody in Massachusetts has my cell phone. Email me first. If you can't text me, just let me know who you are when you text me, because I won't answer unless you tell me. We're also, once you get into the planning grant, the implementation stage of this planning grant, and you're trying to structure your apprenticeships, we'll provide all the technical assistance that we possibly can. In areas that we might not be experts in, we'll get you the help that you need. We'll find an expert, connect you with that expert. We'll make sure that you have all the support that you need from a technical standpoint and from a planning standpoint. So we're there 100% of the time. This is one of the reasons that we will, we're doing 2 webinars coming up on apprenticeships. I'm sure that we'll do more. If you need a presentation at your organization, reach out to us. We're more than happy to do that. We can do it in person or via Zoom, Teams, or whatever platform you decide to use. We'll also monitor all your deliverables. As you notice, I stated before, MNAM will be monitoring apprenticeship data for the entire state. Workforce boards. It's workforce boards on here. Sometimes I know that it could possibly be that if you're working through some grant or something, and this is something that you're interested in, you may have to register the apprenticeships through DAS yourself. That's fine. That's something we do for all employers. All of the apprenticeships that we create out of this grant will be registered through the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. But we'll do that for you, okay? And we'll also do all the reporting for you. So that means that we'll email you and say, hey, we need this, and you just email it to us. Email us the information, we report it to DAS for you. There are a lot of advantages, I feel like, being a registered apprenticeship through DAS. The most important one is the tax credit. I feel like that's the most important because we actually use that to make the case for the return on investment. But the tax credit currently in Massachusetts for an apprenticeship is $4,800 per apprentice per year up to a maximum of $100,000. Now that's apprenticeships across all disciplines. So if you have, and that's registered apprenticeships, not just the apprenticeships that you may be doing that are just kind of your own creation. But if you have 5 MAs in registered apprenticeships, those have to count towards that tax credit. And then, of course, there's some grant funding and things like that that comes up. And then, too, it's like anything. I have certifications as a nurse, and they're just kind of like the stamp of approval on the product that I offer via my leadership or critical care skills or whatever that may be. Same thing with your apprenticeship, okay? But we handle all that for you. If a workforce board has to register it, that's totally fine with us. The only thing that we ask is that you just let us know the data and just keep us in the loop with the data, because that's going to be really, really important. Because we want to see the benefit of the nursing apprenticeship programs in Massachusetts. We want to track that, and obviously we expect that data is going to be really good based on what we see nationally, and then of course we'll leverage that to create more nursing apprenticeships in the state. We'll do the post-award evaluations. We'll work with you on your launch and things like that, and obviously we can be flexible with stuff too. If you're having an issue, you should let us know. We really believe in open communication, so if there's roadblocks, let us know, and we'll work with you to kind of address those. And then I mentioned the sponsorship program. So that is a very brief, and I said it would take 30 minutes. It's just about what it took. I'm totally open to answer any questions that you may have. I know that's a really pretty high-level flight over the nursing apprenticeship planning grant opportunity. Happy to answer any questions. You'll get these slides, and in here is my email address. You can email me. If you want to, you can text me too. That's fine. I don't mind. I don't mind anybody to have my cell phone. If something happens and you turn out to be like not stable mentally, I can just block you. That's a feature of the iPhone. And then also on the website is the Nursing Council email address. Please reach out to us. Let us know. Let us help you. We want you to be successful, so we can help walk you through this process. We can help you answer your questions if you get stuck. So that, in summation, is the presentation. Kim, as she noted, will get you the slides, but I'm happy to take any questions and hopefully be able to give you an answer that is sufficient. So I'm going to stop sharing and we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Jay. Really excellent presentation on the nuts and bolts of the grant. There is a question in the chat. What is the duration of the grant period if the start is April 2026? And are you aware of implementation funding after the planning grant?
So let me handle the last part of it. So we would love to be able to launch these. Well, never mind. I'll reverse that. So we'd love to be able to launch these by January 30th. Is like, because we have all the stuff ready for you, but we can always push that date out, right? So we're a little bit flexible with that. We just want to be able to see the progress that you're getting close to launching by January 30th of 2027. So once you have the money, our goal is not to take it back from you, okay? So our goal is not to take it back, and we will work like everything to make that not happen. So as far as like the sustainability part and funding, this is something I don't know yet. And I think that anybody that deals with grants or extra money will tell you the same thing. You just never know sometimes when this stuff comes down the pipeline. I know that DAS, through their GROW initiative, I really strongly believe that they'll continue to have funding through that. DAS is always really good about communicating, which again is very beneficial for being a registered apprenticeship, because they're very, very good about communicating out funding opportunities. There's also, when we talk about funding, we're having some level of success with philanthropy. Turns out there's some people that have money that want to give it away, which is a great problem to have if you have it. I currently don't have that problem, but I would love to work myself into that problem. So that stuff comes up sometimes, just like, oh, wait, it's just like an email drops in your inbox, or somebody calls you and says, hey, we found out that there's all this money. We will utilize this apprenticeship network that's this kind of connection network to be able to get that information out. And so I don't know right now, but again, and I can't guarantee that funding's going to come. Anybody that deals with funding right now will not make you that promise, but I can tell you that we will work to get funding, and we'll make you aware of any funding that we become aware of.
Great, great. And we've got a couple more questions in the chat. Um, and not to put anyone on the spot, but wondering if Bourne is prepared to help expedite some of these projects. I'm not sure if that's needed, but if we are looking to create a new program or add a site to an existing program, is Bourne ready to support those pieces? And obviously, that's the Board of Registration in Nursing, Bourne.
Yeah, that so yes, but I can't make any promises on the time frame. I know that once listen, we meet with More Monthly. They're a fantastic partner. We are working on perhaps some frameworks that could be like easily approved, um, to try to expedite that process. Because we know any type of change, if it requires a change, now all apprenticeships don't necessarily require change, but this is a really good question. Um, so let's say you got into a situation where it took a little bit longer. That's something we're able to work with because we understand the constraints there. And this is one of the reasons it's good to have a partner that's actually doing the work because we understand that portion of it. I can tell you that we're really working, and Bourne's a very good partner. But we do recognize that's an issue. I don't think that Bourne is really looking toward trying to fill up their agenda with apprenticeship approvals. And so we're trying to work on a kind of standardized method for that. So that's still in process, but listen, we'll also be your partner through that too. And we have partnered with people before, to make sure that we can help you as much as we can to dot the I's and cross the T's, or get information out for you. So again, when we talk about we're 100% support, that's what we'll help you with that too. So that's still a work in progress. But again, I think the most important takeaway is that if it's a little bit slow because of agenda items can get packed, and we're happy to extend deadlines and things like that.
Thank you. And with regard to the grant timeline and having a program ready to launch, can you define what launch means? Does that mean having students in the apprenticeship or doing prereqs or something else?
Yeah, you can. So ready to launch means, hey, I've got the apprenticeship program ready to go. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have students enrolled in it, right? Because because this is employer driven, you actually have to open jobs for these nursing apprentices. You have to hire them. Um, you know, a lot of times it's incumbent workforce, which is a lot easier because the risk of your return on investment is a lot lower risk on that, and you already know these employees because if you want to know if they're going to complete their courses, you just kind of look at their record and find out, are they showing up for work, are they doing a good job, and those are not always guarantees, but they're good indicators. So ready to launch just means you have all the nuts and bolts in place and you're ready to go. And it does not necessarily mean you have to have students enrolled because that can take a little bit of time. But as long as we're moving toward that, we're in good shape. And
Great.
that was intentionally vague, the answer. Okay,
Fair enough.
because again, the win for us in this thing is you'll never convince me in 1,000 years that apprenticeships don't work, right? I've seen it with my own eyes, and sometimes I don't understand how it works, but it does because it's so different in every state, but the statistics are almost the same. It's really crazy. Um, so the win for us is that we are moving towards nursing apprenticeships in Massachusetts because what we do is we give people an opportunity to become a nurse that otherwise would not have that opportunity, for number one, financial reasons, or number two, the lack of support. Because nursing school is hard, and especially if we're talking about our incumbent workforce, which a lot of times, maybe people that have immigrated from other countries and have a lot of social challenges, technology, all the different things that these individuals struggle with. But you'll find out when we pair that person with a journey coach in an apprenticeship, that helps to kind of elevate them. It helps to mentor them. And so this is something I really, really believe in. And that's the win for us, is that we make this happen for the people that we're going to fund through this planning grant. But what we're doing here is we're creating opportunities for the future. We're kind of breaking the ice so that we know that when we break the ice here, there'll be other organizations that come along and say, without a planning grant, and say, look, we've seen the results, we see what it can do for people, we're willing to do that. So that's the win for us. So that's the reason my answers are really vague, because I want you to be successful. I want to see students enrolled in your program. I want you as employers to be able to create consistent talent pools in your organization, right? Because I know you need to recruit nurses, but not only that, I know it helps your organization when a person as a phlebotomist or whatever can see that, hey, this organization thinks enough of me that they're willing to invest in me. And let me tell you, it can improve the morale in your entire organization, even though they may not take advantage of it, right? They just know it's there if they ever need it.
Great. A couple more questions have come in. Where does Mass BON, I'm assuming this is the Board of Nursing, we call it BORN here. Where does BON stand on apprenticeships? I know Alabama Board of Nursing is very supportive.
Yeah, and so the Alabama Board of Nurses is very supportive, and having been an Alabama nurse for an undisclosed number of years, I will say this: the Alabama Board of Nursing is structured very differently, however, than Massachusetts. It's independent, and so you got more funding, so you've got more personnel to be able to do this. The Board of Nursing, as I mentioned, has the day we started the apprenticeship committee, they joined in. I meet with the Board of Nursing in an organized meeting monthly on a host of issues. Apprenticeships has been on the agenda, I think, every time for 2 years that we've talked something about apprenticeships. So they are supportive. They will always look at things through a regulatory lens, right? Which is what we wanted them to do, because what we wanted to avoid was creating a program that we believed in, but the Board of Nursing says it didn't pass the sniff test, right? So everything that if you go to our website right now, 100% of that stuff has been reviewed, read, marked through by the Board of Nursing, commented on by the Board of Nursing, questioned by the Board of Nursing. Everything you can imagine, we've already gone through. So yes, they are very supportive of it. And at the end of the day, I will say this about the Board of Nursing: they are very supportive of apprenticeships because they understand the value it adds to the student. They understand the support it gives to the student, but they also have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that these students are protected, to make sure the public's protected, and they have their regulatory responsibility, which is great, and that's what we want them to do. Um, you know, it doesn't. That doesn't always mean that you just get the stamp of approval because we're doing it. You still have to jump through some hoops, but we're there to help jump with you. And again, we're working to figure out if there's a more streamlined pathway. If you look at some of the national accrediting organizations, they basically say if you do a nursing apprenticeship, that's not a fundamental change to nursing education, nursing curriculum. Just let us know it's not substantive, which is a hard word for me to say for whatever reason. So yes, they are supportive. That's a very long answer to a very short question.
And another question, do you have a target number of how many students you want to participate in the apprenticeship program yearly?
Like totally for Massachusetts. Now, if you're asking, so let me answer this two or three ways. Um, for your apprenticeship, it's whatever makes sense to your organization, right? I'm not going to say, okay, in order to make this planning grant successful, you have to do 20 nursing apprentices, because that is a large number, right? You probably want to scale that back. Whatever makes sense to your organization, whatever you can handle. Totality, total, like over the state, from a totality type look, I can tell you that, and I know you're gonna. I wish I could think of another state, but I don't know statistics from another state. But Alabama has between 400 to 600 nursing apprentices enrolled right now, with really, really, really good statistics on retention, 100% NCLEX pass rates. I told that in a meeting. Somebody went and fact checked me and said, "Oh gosh, you were right." And I said, "Well, yeah, I wouldn't have said it if I knew it wasn't right." So I'm not going to give them. I would say as many as we can possibly get. Right? It does not. That doesn't mean that every time a nurse goes to school that they're going to be in an apprenticeship. Right? It's just this is designed for specific individuals that they have to work to be able to live, and it provides them a level of support. Now, I thoroughly believe in the apprenticeship model, but I also believe in the nursing education model that we have right now because it has produced really, really good nurses. So we'll do as many as we possibly can. We're totally open to it, but we also know that the predominant number of nurses will be educated in what currently stands in traditional ways.
Great. And We did put the information in the chat for the upcoming webinars that the council is hosting on this. And we can also put in the chat previous webinars that MHA has done on apprenticeships back from 2025 that are recorded. So I'll put that there. I don't see any more questions in the chat right now. So any other final words of wisdom, Jay, or final
Well, I
thoughts?
don't know if there'll be wisdom, but I'll give you some final words. As you get on the website, the playbook and all the stuff, look through it. If you have questions, reach out, and we're happy to obviously do more webinars, right? But we're also happy to talk to your organization individually as we have done in the past. So again, don't hesitate to reach out and let me know of any questions or any way that we can help support.
Excellent. And I am just getting the links to put in the chat right now for our previous webinars that we have done. So these are going out to everybody. Definitely check those out. The recordings are at those links. They're free. Anyone can go in and view them. But thank you, Jay. This has been a terrific session. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain the grant and the grant application process and for having this opportunity for hospitals. This is definitely something new and exciting here. So hopefully you'll get a lot of applications and look forward to hearing some updates on this in the future. Thank you everyone who registered for joining us today. As a reminder, you will get the recording of this, you'll get the slides. And if you scan the QR code on your screen now to see you can see all of MHA's upcoming educational programming. We've got a lot of great events coming, both virtual and in person. So thank you, and we will see you next time.
All right, thanks everybody.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye.